Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Orochimaru was given the responsibility of watching over Naruto X Hinata Part 3. Odo had been around for about 10 years now, 9.5 to be more accurate, and while they had been training ninja of all ranks, they still operated in absolute secrecy within Land of Rice only. About 4 months ago, Orochimaru overturned that policy and told everyone that Odo ninja could tell what their home was and where their Hitai Atesh on missions if they wanted to, but they still couldn't tell anyone where exactly the village was located. And since then they had been able to take missions within Land of Wind and Land of Earth too. But soon they would be known everywhere. Orochimaru probably made the point across best as, it's time for the sound to be heard. The instructor started listing off the teams. Only 2 of them were of any particular interest to one student, a 13-year-old Naruto. Team 1 will consist of Naruto Uzumaki, Hinata Hibiki, and Isaribi Maikai. Your sensei will be Anko Mitarashi. Team 2 will consist of Zaku Abumi, Dosu Kinuda, and Kin Tsuchi. Your sensei will be Kabuto Yakushi. The rest of the list was just noise to him, however short it was. Hinata, who was sitting right next to him, smiled and hugged him from the side. Can you believe it, Naru-kun? We're on the same team, she said in a whisper, barely containing her joy. Terrific. Who do you think was the one to decide on that? Your mom, or Ji-san? He whispered back. Does it matter? No, guess not. Elsewhere in the room, a purple-haired girl and a brown-haired girl looked at the young couple with envy. Great. She gets to be with him even more. Now I'll never have a chance to get closer to him. You know what we gotta do today, right? Tsunade asked Orochimaru with Jiraiya in the room too. Yeah, I didn't forget. Let's save it for after he gets done with the second test for Genin. Won't that be saved for tomorrow though? Jiraiya asked. Orochimaru smirked. Usually, but Anko-chan's the one testing him. And you know she won't wait. Or go easy on him either. At least not too easily. Tsunade corrected. 2 hours later Tsunade saw a battered and bruised Naruto walking down the hall to his room. He looked like he had just been in a fight with a small but pissed off bear. Yep, that's Anko's style all right. She thought with a small grin. Hey Naruto, feeling okay? I'm fine. I've been through worse, he said, feigning his well-being. Sad thing is I can actually believe that. Tsunade grimly thought. Just so you know, me and the others want you to come down to the council meeting room in an hour. Bring Hinata with you so we can discuss this with her too, but we'll talk to you two one at a time with you first. No problem. I'm going to go lay down now. The young boy replied before going into his room and crashing on his bed. Poor boy's got a tough road ahead of him. But I'm sure he'll do just fine. Tsunade commented to herself before walking away. Any idea what this is all about? Hinata asked as she and Naruto approached the door to the council room. Both had recovered from their little test at Anko's hands, but only Naruto was at 100% now. Not at all, but I doubt it's bad news. Naruto answered. Hey, maybe they're offering some sort of betrothal contract between us. Hinata blushed. I was thinking the same thing. Okawa-san keeps saying she might do something like that when we're older. Naruto and Hinata were probably the best-known young couple in all of Odo. While Naruto was seen with lots of female friends, Hinata was apparently the only one he had ever been romantic with or even kissed. She was his only official girlfriend, and while all the other girls could accept that, many of them were jealous of Hinata. Shizune walked out of the room and smiled when she saw the two of them. Good. Right on time. Ready Naruto-kun? Yeah. He then gave Hinata a brief kiss on her cheek before walking away with Shizune. Be right back. The council room was filled with members of both sides. Like Konoha, there were shinobi members and an equal number of civilian members. But unlike Konoha, the number was smaller, with 5 members for both sides. And their authority was kept in check to ensure they didn't act like they were the ones in charge. For example, the civilian members couldn't call meetings if the subject of it was ninja-based. And the ninja members weren't allowed to make laws specifically for their own clans unless it was a matter of village security. There were two reasons the Council of Odo was smaller than the one in Konoha. 1. Having a smaller council meant making decisions would be much easier. And 2. There were fewer ninja clans in Odo. Sure, several came from Kiri, but some people who weren't in great shape didn't survive the long trip due to trouble along the way. Also, when Odo made alliances with Suna, Iwa, and Taki, they gave each village a clan or two in exchange for better trade and a promise of being hired for missions when they were ready. So now Odo was down to 6 clans total. The 6 clans were the following: the Kagaya, a bone-wielding clan with brutal fighting styles; the Fuma, a clan native to Land of Rice with various techniques; the Momochi, an ice-wielding clan from Kiri formerly known under a different name; the Onagumo, a clan of people with 6 arms and spider-like abilities; the Sakuya, a twin-favoring clan with a body-merging Kekkei Genkai; and the Hibiki, which was really the 3 renamed Hyugas. Technically, the Momochi and Hibiki didn't really count as clans since their numbers were so small, but the Momochi, the more established of the two, were allowed a seat on the council to prevent ties in votes. The Hibiki would get a seat when their numbers increased. At the head of the room were the 3 Sannin. Orochimaru was the acting cage and overall tiebreaker. Tsunade was the representative of the civilian side since she worked at Odo's hospitals, and Jiraiya was the representative of the ninja side, when he was actually in town. In his absence, Kabuto was the representative. "Hello everyone. What can I do for you?" Naruto politely greeted. Usually he could get away with being unorthodox, but Tsunade made sure he knew when and how to show proper respect, and this was one of those times. Also, the relatives of 3 of his friends were on this council and he didn't want to look dishonorable in front of them. "Just sit down and hear what we have to tell you, Naruto-kun," Orochimaru told him. When the boy was seated, he continued. "From what I recently heard from Anko-chan, you're now officially a genin of Odo. And that means we need to tell you something rather important regarding your future in the village. I can still become Odokage someday, right?" Naruto nervously asked. His dream was to become Odokage someday, preferably the Nadaime, which Tsunade was currently the candidate for if something happened to Orochimaru. "Oh, this won't interfere with your goal. Not too much at least. But it may make things a little more difficult for you," Orochimaru answered. "Naruto-kun, as you are aware, you currently hold 9 Kekkei Genkais in your blood. And each of your descendants will only be able to inherit 1. With that in mind, we have something we need you to do." "Yeah, what is it?" Naruto asked. "You must have children with 9 different women, allowing each of them to pass on 1 of your Kekkei Genkais each. Preferably at least 1 son each. Not exactly the CRA, more of a clan creation act." Naruto looked blindsided. "No, I can't do that." "Why not?" Jiraiya asked. "It wouldn't be fair to Hina-chan. I know she'd have no problem having a family with me later on, but to make her share me with 8 other girls would be wrong for her. I can't do that to her," Naruto answered. Jiraiya groaned mentally. "Great. The one person in the country who's being told to have multiple women, and he's a one-woman man. Oh, where did I go wrong? Naruto, as admirable as that is in a man, there's something else you need to consider about this." Tsunade spoke up. "Each of your Kekkei Genkai is a gift that should be able to help us out for generations, not just until you die. To do that, you would basically need to have at least 9 kids, each inheriting a different one. Having one woman bear 9 children or more is actually hazardous to her." "But what about surrogate mothers?" Naruto asked. "That way you get the numbers you want and I don't betray my girlfriend." "Consider genetics too," Tsunade added. "One way to help the clans thrive is genetic variety. If there's little genetic difference between them, we may run the risk of inbreeding in the future. We believe that the Kekkei Genkai you supply will affect your sperm enough so that the paternal DNA will be different between any 2 children with different bloodlines, thus the potential for inbreeding will be significantly reduced. If the maternal DNA is identical, it could pose problems." Naruto looked a little bothered. Do you actually think my kids would commit incest? What? No, of course not. What I meant was that if you succeed in creating several clans, the population of Odo will increase substantially within a few decades. And if a good portion of the village's population is significantly genetically linked, then the only options would be inbreeding, extinction, or bringing in foreign genes to increase the variety, which isn't guaranteeable. What we're suggesting for you is the best way to avoid such a problem. Tsunade explained. Naruto didn't look too convinced. Even so, if Hina-chan says no, then so will I. I will not hurt her like that. In that case, what would you do if she says yes? Jiraiya asked. Naruto didn't have a ready answer for that. What would I do? Would Hina-chan even consider the possibility? Wouldn't it still be unfair to her even if she consented? I don't know what to think. All he said was, I don't know. Naruto, all we're asking is that you at least consider the possibility. We can't make you do this if it makes you uncomfortable. Well, we could, but it wouldn't be right. But remember, would you really be more comfortable reducing your girlfriend to being little more than a baby factory like Kumo would have done? At least with other women to help out, you can take the strain off her. Orochimaru added. Naruto hung his head as he let this all sink in. Do you need a decision anytime soon? No, take your time. If you would like to go somewhere private and think this over, you may. And on your way out, tell your girlfriend to come inside so we can inform her of this as well. You are dismissed. Orochimaru answered. Thank you. Naruto politely said as he stood up and left, his face showing several signs of discomfort. After he left the room, Hinata walked in and took a seat where he had been. Her own expression showed she was mildly nervous. Hello, honorable councilman. To what do I owe this pleasure? Hinata-san, as we all are aware, you are in a relationship with Naruto-kun. How serious would you say it is? Orochimaru asked to get things started. The former Hyuga blushed deeply at the question. I thought you already knew that. I love him and have told him several times. And he said it to me before too. I'm glad to hear that, but it makes what we're going to tell you all that much harder then. Orochimaru said. In case you aren't already aware of this, Naruto's many bloodlines are a boon for this village. And we have a responsibility to ensure they stay around for generations. Which is why we feel it's best in the long run if Naruto-kun were to have offspring with multiple women. 9 total preferably. Hinata looked stunned. You want him to what? Tsunade was the one to answer her. We feel that it's best if Naruto were to have children with several different women, as it would help his Kekkei Genkeis flourish in the village. You must know that if you were the only mother of them, that would require you to have at least 9 children, which would be dangerous to your body. So basically you have only 2 real options: allow your boyfriend to have 8 mistresses or use 8 surrogate mothers. You can try to have them all yourself, but we strongly recommend otherwise. And just so you know, Naruto doesn't want to hurt you, so if you say no to the whole idea, he will too. Hinata sat there and went over it all. They want me to share Naru-kun with 8 others. Well, it's not like I can't think of a few candidates that would be glad to, but still, Naru-kun is supposed to be mine. How can I be special to him if I'm just one of 9? One more thing you should know, Hinata. Jiraiya added, regaining the girl's attention. Your mother and the 3 of us did write up a betrothal contract between you and Naruto stating that you'd be the one true wife whether or not you agree to this. So you won't have to worry about being less important in Naruto's eyes. If you accept the contract, that is. Hinata's eyes lit up, but she still didn't look convinced. She looked at all of the other council members. Do you all support this idea? They all nodded. Which do you support more, the mistresses or the surrogates? All 5 of the shinobi council members supported the mistress notion. 3 members of the civilian side supported it too, but 2 of them voted in favor of surrogate mothers. The 3 Sannin said they felt the mistress idea was the smarter one overall. Hinata sighed in defeat. Can I at least think this over? Everyone nodded. Take your time, and discuss this with Naruto-kun too, since he feels bothered by the whole thing as well. You are dismissed, Orochimaru told her. Hinata slowly walked out of the room and without realizing it went to Naruto's room, where she saw him sitting on his bed looking out the window. She sat down next to him, alerting him to her presence. "They told you?" he asked, and she nodded slowly. "I don't want to betray you." She kissed his cheek softly. "I know. I never thought otherwise. I just don't know what we should do about it." Later that night, Hinata ate dinner with just her mother and sister. Normally she would have invited Naruto to celebrate becoming a genin, and Isaribi and Anko too, but she had something she wanted to discuss with her family in private. She just wasn't sure how to bring it up. "Something wrong, Ne-san?" Hanbi asked. "You've barely touched your curry." "Just got a lot on my mind, Imouto-chan." Hinata told her sister. "I bet I know what." Hitomi briefly mentioned before taking a bite of her own curry. "Okawa-san, what do you think of the whole idea?" Hinata suddenly asked. "Which one?" Hitomi asked. She wasn't toying with her daughter. Instead she was referring to the fact they were two issues bound to be on Hinata's mind, the multiple women issue and the betrothal contract. The problem was which one was she more focused on? "You know which one," Hinata said with her eyes beginning to narrow. "Hanabi, why don't you go eat in another room please?" Hitomi asked her younger daughter. Hanabi's gaze darted between her mother and sister, as if trying to deduce what was going on between them. She sighed and stood up with her plate. "Okay. Let me know when you're done." When she left, Hitomi decided to address the most likely thing on Hinata's mind. "I understand that the idea may bother you, Hinata, but I've thought it over several dozen times and I can safely say I agree with the Sanin's decision." "Why?" Hinata quietly asked. "You know me and Naru-kun are close. Why would you try something that might ruin it?" In all fairness, the first time the idea was mentioned was when you and Naruto-kun were only 6 years old. You two were only just friends then. I wasn't so sure how serious you two would come along, how could I? But haven't you noticed how I always taught you to accept his other female friends and not get jealous and possessive of him? Even share your time with him to avoid appearing domineering. Hinata arched her eyebrows. So you said all that hoping when this day came I'd have no problem sharing him? Somewhat, but not entirely. Even if Naruto-kun was limited to one woman only, it would still be a good idea for that one woman to allow him to have friends of his own choosing. I mean, you wouldn't like it if Naruto-kun told you you couldn't have any male friends outside him, right? No, but still, you're all asking me to share Naruto with others, and why exactly should I say yes? Hinata asked, currently unable to make eye contact with her mother. For one very good reason, Hinata. Hitomi answered as seriously as possible. Let me explain. Naruto-kun has to have 9 children for the village. Now that's a minimum, not a maximum. Let's say you keep him all to yourself. That would mean you'd basically be pregnant non-stop for almost a whole decade. That's a huge burden on your body and a huge responsibility. And let's say you use surrogate mothers to take the load off. That would result in you and Naruto having to raise 9 babies all at once, rather than one at a time. Maybe having friends or family, or even a nanny help you out, would be a way to deal with it, but that's still a rather daunting task. And tough on your finances too. Now consider the idea that you allow 8 other women to have children with Naruto-kun that are their very own. 1. It takes the burden of multiple births off you. 2. It gives the village the numbers and genetic variety it needs for the idea. And 3. If they're the real mothers, they'll help in raising the children, just like nannies, but for free, and they'll be able to provide more income for raising them, which, trust me, is a big help in motherhood. Also, you'd only have the pressure of being the mother of 1 child rather than all 9, which will be good for your health and sanity. Sure, the cost of such a good option is having to share Naruto-kun intimately, so that's why I insisted on the betrothal contact for you two. That way, you'd be the one official wife, the alpha female, so to speak. The way I see it, it's really the best option for you. Hinata's shoulders trembled and her fingers twitched, making it look like she was having a mild nervous breakdown. After a moment she stopped moving and sighed before giving her mother a tired look. When you put it that way, I really don't have a choice but to agree. I'm sorry if it feels like I'm trying to pressure you. Hitomi added softly. It's okay. You're my mother and only want what's best for me. This may not be a perfect solution, but it's still the lesser of several evils, I guess. Hinata's eyes then got a stern look in them. But still, I'm not going to let just any girl be with him. That same night, when Naruto went inside his bedroom, he was really surprised to see Hinata waiting for him on his bed. Hi, Hina-chan, what are you doing here? He was really trying to block out the perverted explanations that went through his mind just then. Naru-kun, we need to talk, she said in a calm voice that held a hint of dread in it. He sat down next to her and gently held her hand, calming her nerves. Naru-kun, I know what the council and Otokage asked of you this afternoon, and I've had some time to think over it all. I've been thinking it over too. It sure is a big thing. He commented. Yeah, it is. I know it doesn't sound so great at first, but when I think about all the possible things we can do about it, and the consequences, I get the feeling that what the council suggested really is the best idea. So, if you want, I'll share you with 8 other girls. She then looked right into his eyes. But only on 2 conditions. What? Naruto asked. 1. We accept the betrothal contract first and I become your one true wife. That way, I'm the only one who takes on your name, I'm the one who claims your virginity, and I'm the first one to have your child. And 2. We both decide who the other girls are. If I have to share my future husband, I have a right to have a say in who I'm sharing him with. Hinata insisted. Fair enough. Naruto replied. He was actually surprised Hinata was going to let this happen. You sure you're okay with this? Am I okay with this? Not really. To be honest, I wish it would be just you and me and we'd get to have 2 or 3 kids when we're older. But that's not what can happen. So we gotta make the best of this situation. When she finished, she rested her head on his chest and he placed his arm on her shoulder. The 2 13-year-olds just sat there in silence for a bit, nothing needing to be said just then. But after a bit, Naruto did say something. Hina-chan, I just thought of something. You said you wanted to accept the contract, but when exactly did you want us to become married? He hadn't been told about the betrothal contract in his meeting, but Tsunade had informed him afterwards. It was designed to ensure that no girl had a legal claim to being Naruto's wife other than Hinata. If they accepted it, they were instantly engaged, and if not, any other girl could try and claim him for their husband. Not that they were likely to succeed, but they could still try. Not sure. Part of me wants to say right away, since as registered ninja we can now, but another part of me wants to wait until we're closer to Chunin. I definitely don't want us to try having any kids before then. I was thinking the same thing. Naruto stated. Also, I hate to bring this up, but how exactly do we handle the, other girls? Hinata slowly turned to look right at her boyfriend, but her gaze held no hostility to his question. Well, I'm thinking we don't just announce this to the village. I think we should only accept girls that genuinely care about you, and if we make this public there's no way of knowing if they really do. Let's see who shows signs of care for you without knowing this. I can already think of a few who might fit the bill. To be honest, so can I. Naruto hesitantly added. Really? Who? Hinata asked. He was afraid to answer, but felt trapped. I think Haku-chan, Fu-chan, and Sasama-chan would at least like to hear the option. Hinata didn't look bothered like he half expected her to. I think Isaribi-chan and Kin-chan would as well. So, assuming they all say yes, that means we already have 5 girls selected and 3 more to. But I guess we don't need to be in any hurry. Naruto thought aloud. Good. I want us to have some time for just us anyway. Hinata commented and added a small kiss on his cheek. I may have to share you, but that doesn't mean I have to do it from the beginning. The next morning, Naruto and Hinata met up in the tower's private training area to meet their sensei and teammate. Enko was already there sitting next to a tree that was often used for target practice, and Isaribi was sitting down with her feet in the water. Hi you two. Don't tell me you already got down to business so soon. Enko teased the young couple as they entered her sight. Even though he was used to his surrogate sister's teasing, Naruto still got red from her comment. Nei-chan. Hinata meanwhile noticed Isaribi gave the blonde a longing look that said many things, one being, why can't I be the one with him? And another being, I really hope our sensei is wrong. Her own thoughts on this were, maybe we should approach her first. Back to business. Enko said as she stood up before her team. As you may have figured from yesterday, I'm not going to go easy on you just because we've known each other for a long time. Once you decided to become shinobi, that meant you were ready to handle a life of pain and danger. My job is to make sure you don't become victims, and what better way to do that than have the strength to fight back against anything that tries to make you its bitch. Now, since I already know you've all received some training from the Sannin, that gives you a good advantage over other genin and lets me know where you already stand. I've found something for all three of you to work on individually for the time being. Enko continued, then looked at Naruto. Yuo Tudo so far seemed the hardest. Thanks to the Sannin's help, he already knew the shadow clones, Rasengan, and basic medical ninjutsu. Finding something new for him wasn't going to be simple. I'll get you more focused on chakra control first since you're still a little rough around the edges there. But soon I promise I'll have something fun for you. He smiled, and Enko turned to Hinata. You're the second hardest, but I'm sure I can help you get a better handle on your taijutsu and maybe improve it a little. Then she faced Isaribi. You're the easiest simply because you have the most room to grow. I'll start you out with something simple to see what kind of progress you can make. Enko then looked around as if suspecting someone was watching. When she was satisfied there was none, she looked back to Hinata and Isaribi. And one more thing, I'm also going to help you two with your mark. You two can already use the first stage, right? The two girls nodded and activated their marks to show they could. Hinata was covered in lines that looked like teardrops in a chain link fashion, while Isaribi was covered with gentle wavy lines that gave the impression of a current on her skin. Enko smirked and activated her own mark, making it look like many small snakes were covering her. Good. Now I'm going to help you learn to use it in a real battle and maybe someday access stage 2. Aren't we supposed to wait until we're Junin for that? Isaribi asked. Since Orochimaru couldn't figure out how to get rid of the mark, only create it, he settled on a plan regarding it. He offered the mark to all his Junin level shinobi, telling them the benefits and costs and letting it be completely voluntary. It was actually accepted rather well by almost all the Junin, and all who had it formed the village defense unit similar to Konoha's Anbu. In Odo, they were known as the Altos. Tsunade was a little uncomfortable about this, but Orochimaru pointed out it wasn't much different than Hoshi and their Kujaku arts. This was the secret technique of Odo that no other village could easily predict or counter. Normally yes, but considering how we got our marks the rules have to be a little bent for us. Enko answered. Think of it as our squad's secret weapon. Naruto's second source of chakra should be our last resort. How am I going to be able to handle it properly? Naruto asked. We got some scrolls written for you by Roshi-san and Han-san from Iwa. They've got lots of info for you to handle Kyuubi's chakra in case you resort to it. Hopefully your bloodlines will prevent that, but it can happen so we'll be prepared. But for now, let's get started on the first lesson, tree walking. Enko finished. Team training with Enko could probably best be described as voluntary torture. No matter what exercise she had her students learn, she always found a way to make it potentially lethal to them. The tree walking technique, which all three already knew before they even graduated, had a barrage of kunai thrown at them with venomous snakes hidden in the trees as well. The water walking exercise, which was new to them and taught in the second week, was pretty much the same thing. Then she made them try it on a moving current. Enko almost refused to let them do any D-rank missions. She kept insisting their time could be better used to focus on training directly rather than indirectly. But she did let them try one at least once a week to give them some money to have fun with. Hinata and Isaribi didn't mind too much because it gave them both a chance to be around their favorite guy. And while Isaribi felt she couldn't be with him the way she wanted to, she was at least glad she was on his team rather than another of his fangirls. After their 11th day of training, where they were all expected to use kunais to hit targets while they were upside down, while said targets fired Senbon back at them. Enko was really hardcore when it came to training apparently. But afterwards, with a small amount of injuries, Hinata and Isaribi had a moment alone. Naruto was currently spending some time with Tayuya since he enjoyed giving her some company while she guarded one of Odo's gates. She also enjoyed his company too, as he was the only one to make her laugh and appreciated her dirty jokes. Hinata and Isaribi were relaxing in the pool of the tower, both wearing bikinis since that's all they had in an effort to catch Naruto's eye. And both were orange too, although they kept saying it was just coincidence. At the moment Hinata was just floating lazily on her back while Isaribi was swimming around completely submerged, just the way she liked it. When Isaribi came up for air, which seemed like once every 5 minutes but was more like every 3, Hinata decided to bring up the issue on her mind. Hey Isaribi-chan, got a moment? Sure Hinata-chan. What's up? Well, a while ago me and Naru-kun were told to do something by the council and Otokage-sama. It involves getting 8 other girls into the plan. And you're the first girl I can think of that might enjoy this. Hinata explained with a small embarrassed blush. Oh, does this involve your little harem? Isaribi asked. Hinata practically facefaulted in the water. What? She asked after she coughed up the water she almost swallowed. How did you? Your little sister told me. Apparently she overheard you and your mother talk about sharing Naruto-kun with others, and spied on you again when you talked to him about it. She then got me and a few other girls together and told us all. Isaribi explained. I should have known Imouto-chan would have been too curious to really stay out of this. Hinata thought semi-bitterly. So I'm actually the first girl you're approaching for this? Isaribi asked. Gotta admit I'm flattered and tempted. Just tempted? Hinata asked. I'd have thought she'd be begging for this. I'm not against the idea. Believe me, I'm willing to tolerate sharing. But to be honest, I don't really want to unless Naruto-kun himself asks me to be a part of this group. Unless he does, I'll kind of feel like I'm just there to do a job and not because he cares about me. You know he cares about you. Heck, he goes swimming with you almost every morning because you like it so much. Hinata stated. I know, but I want him to be the one to make the offer, not you. Do you understand? Isaribi asked. Yeah, I do. So, who were the other girls Imouto-chan told? Isaribi scanned her memory. Besides me there was Kintsuchi, Hikumamochi, Sasama Fuma, and Fu Takino. All the girls we mentioned that night. Sounds like she's playing matchmaker rather than just eavesdropping. Hinata thought. Oh, one more thing. I'm not sure if you already heard this, but your sister said she wanted a spot in the group too. Isaribi added. What? Hinata asked. Sure. She knew her younger sister gave the blonde boy the same sort of looks Hinata did, but Hinata always figured it was some sort of silly kid crush and nothing more. She can't be serious. She didn't look like she was joking to me. But she's only 10. Weren't you 9 when you first kissed Naruto-kun and told him you loved him? Isaribi countered. Are you actually in favor of the idea? Hinata asked. I don't really have an opinion on the subject. Let's face it, the odds aren't in her favor so there's no reason to fret over it. Isaribi answered. I guess you're right, although there is a chance that Naruto might be interested in that kinda. Don't you dare, Hinata warned. Isaribi laughed. Alright, now that that's settled, I'm going to go back to what I was doing. Isaribi said before taking a deep breath and submerging herself. Hinata started doing a few strokes for no particular reason. For some reason I get the feeling that Isaribi-chan won't have to wait too long. Meanwhile, Naruto was sitting next to Tayuya at the northern gate keeping an eye out for trouble, all the while eating some ramen and making semi-inappropriate small talk. He usually did this with her at least once a week since she was the funnest Alto member to be around. And she enjoyed it too, enough that she actually bothered to tone down her language around him a bit. For those that knew Tayuya, that was saying a lot. "Hey Tayuya-chan, can I ask you something?" Naruto asked as he set his empty ramen bowl down. "Sure Naruto. What's on your mind?" The redhead told him. "Have you already been told anything about me from Ji-san?" he asked to start things out. Tayuya was part of a special branch of the Altos known as the Sound 5, their main jobs being operating the sound defense system and if need be defend the Sannin and all who reside in the Otokage Tower. So he figured there was a chance she was already informed about his predicament. "No. Why was I supposed to? Let's just say something's come up, and it's got me confused. I'd love to hear an unbiased opinion," he explained. "Sure. I'll help you out," she told him to build up his nerve. "Basically, in a nutshell, I'm being ordered to have children with 9 women someday," Naruto said quickly to get it over with. For a moment Tayuya was silent, but then the dam burst. "You've gotta be kidding me. Really? Why?" "Because of my multiple Kekkei Genkeis. If I have children with 9 women then I can create 9 clans for Oto." "Makes sense. So, who are the lucky ladies?" Naruto sighed. "So you think this is a good idea too? You don't, Naruto-kun. Most men would give up a nut to be in a situation like this. Being told to bang several different girls and having it be legal and allowed by the women too. Naruto-kun, I always knew you were a decent man, but maybe you're too decent for your own damn good." Tayuya replied. "I'm willing to try it out. I mean, I do understand the reasoning behind it all and Hina-chan is willing to try it too," Naruto defended. Tayuya arched an eyebrow at him. "Then what exactly do you need my opinion on? How exactly do I attract more girls? And how do I keep them satisfied and taken care of once I have them?" he asked. "I mean, I need to treat them well so they'll want to stay and feel special, and once they have the kids I'll need to help raise them and care for the mothers as well. How can I do that with 9 women when sometimes one sounds like a huge job?" On the outside, Tayuya just smiled warmly. But on the inside, she was practically cheering praise for the blonde. Wow, he actually already knows having several women like that won't be just a 24/7 orgy. And he wants to cater to them all like a decent person would. All of a sudden I'm hoping he's not put off by older women, even if the age difference is only 4 years. Well Naruto-kun, when it comes to attracting more girls, I'd say do what worked to get you your girlfriend since it worked so well. As for keeping them satisfied, and I'm assuming you mean outside the bedroom too here, treat them like you treat your girlfriend. Basically just go with what you already know works, just on a group. I have a feeling you can handle it even though it does sound tough." At hearing that, Naruto looked a little more at ease. "Thanks to Yuya-chan. I'll try my hardest. Got an opening for me?" Tayuya joked, and laughed when Naruto facefaulted. "I'm kidding Naruto-kun, but I wouldn't be offended if you considered the idea later on. Do I really even have to look for girls, or will they end up coming to me?" Naruto asked himself somewhat nervously. Some more time went by and more grueling training went on for Naruto's team. So far, he had yet to approach any other girls about the prospect of joining his little group. And Hinata hadn't bothered at all since she felt the other girls would prefer it if he did instead, like Isaribi. She did consult her sister though first chance she got, and she still wasn't sure if Hanabi was serious or just joking. The hardest part was telling her no in a way that couldn't be refuted. For a young girl, Hanabi was a surprisingly good debater. On one particular day, Anko decided her team could do a mission instead of training. "I think you guys just might be ready for AC rank by now." "Think we really are ready?" Isaribi whispered to Naruto as they walked to the mission assigning room. If we can handle Nei-chan's exercises, we can handle anything. He replied. Anko surprised them by taking them directly to Orochimaru's office rather than the general room to get assignments. Heiji-san. My team's ready for AC rank. Got any good ones for them? You sure about that? He asked. At her grinning nod, he checked his records of ones he didn't already give out. Oh, here's one that might prove interesting to you. But I need to explain it all before you accept or not. Go on. Okay. A small nation southeast of here called Land of Waves is the destination. I was immediately suspicious since Konoha is the closest village and the one they were most likely to hire for something like this. Apparently the client is someone who's connected on a bridge building project and fears something horrible will happen to the bridge and everyone working on it. They asked for non-Leaf Nin help because they feared the threat might be prepared for Leaf Nin. Makes sense. Tell me, how did they hear of this village? Anko asked. The client is downstairs so you can ask them directly. Wait, someone from outside is actually here in Oto? Naruto asked. Orochimaru nodded. Yes. So keep an eye out on the client in case this is some sort of setup to draw some of our forces out and see how we work. Assuming we accept it, that is. Anko reminded the snake Sanin. True. Also, given what we've learned from Jiraiya's spy network, it would appear that a tycoon named Gato is basically draining the country dry like some sort of economic vampire, although technically nothing he does can be considered illegal. Or if it can, then it can't legally be traced back to him. This request would give the nation a way to recover. But I personally think it will only truly work if Gato was eliminated, because he could still find a way to destroy the completed bridge if he wasn't. So the mission is simply return the client home safely, guard the construction workers, assist in construction if possible and necessary, and try to lure this man out for extermination. Anko asked to clarify. Orochimaru nodded, she smiled wickedly, and turned to face her students. You guys game. I'm up for it, Naruto answered confidently. If he is, I am. Hinata added. Isaribi just shrugged nonchalantly. Sure. Why not? Ourjit then. Go get ready for it. Pack what I told you and meet me at the front door in 20 minutes. Anko told them all before they went off. Once they were gone, she turned back to Orochimaru. Not to doubt Yuji-san, but this sounds more appropriate for a B rank mission than C rank. Are you sure it's marked correctly? Technically yes. The official mission is just guard duty, something your team could easily handle. The other stuff I told you, like eliminating the threat completely, is just an extra voluntary objective. But a rather significant one if you ask me. Okay. And how likely do you think is the chance of Konoha shinobi being in the area too? Anko asked, not wanting her team to deal with any if avoidable. Very likely. But surely nothing you can't handle by now. Orochimaru answered, understanding his goddaughter's unease perfectly. Okay, I'll still let my team give this one a shot. And I'll make sure not to risk starting a war with Konoha. But if they don't do the same, then no promises, I won't enjoy myself. Anko stated. Orochimaru smiled. I would be worried if you said anything else, Anko-chan. Anko's team regrouped in the central room of the Otokage Tower, and Anko brought along the client so her students could meet them. It turned out the client was a young woman, not quite at middle age yet but on the receding edge of her prime, accompanied by a short boy with a fisher's hat on. Both had dark hair and eyes and light-colored clothes, but the woman looked desperate while the boy looked disturbed. Everyone, this is the client and her son. Her name's Tsunami and the kid's name is Inari. Anko told her 3 genin, who gave the guests polite smiles and waves. Anko then faced the 2 from Wave. I'm Anko Mitarashi, the senior ninja. The one boy is my Otuto Naruto Uzumaki, the girl with the jacket is Hinata Hibiki, and the last member here is Isaribi Maikai. Nice to meet you all. I'm glad my son and I can get home safely now thanks to your help. Tsunami politely said to them all. Inari just silently scoffed, as if he didn't believe that, but nobody mentioned it. By the way team, Anko added. Otokage Same told me that due to the uncertain nature of this mission, He's got another team assigned to work with us. I hope you can cooperate with them. Which team? Hinata asked. She was wearing a blue pair of contact lenses now so no one could tell she had a Byakugan. Last year's All Kunoichi team led by Kurenai-chan. They'll be briefed on the mission momentarily and then we head out. Anko answered. Naruto raised his eyebrows in surprise, while Hinata and Isaribi shared a look and a thought. Kurenai taught Haku, Sasama, and Fu, who became a permanent member of Odo a few years ago. That team had one more year of experience than their own team, and was doing quite well considering that most villages didn't assemble all Kunoichi teams. Usually because the leaders feared that an all Kunoichi team would be a tempting target for outlaws, one too tempting to pass up. 2 teams. Is the situation that bad? Tsunami asked, worried for her safety and her son's. Otokage-sama has reason to believe the mission may call for a little extra muscle later on. We will escort you back home, but once we're there we'll need to investigate the threat to your country as to ensure you won't need us again anytime soon. Anko explained. Unlike others, we ninja try to do the job so that we and the customer don't need repeat business. Hinata added. Any idea what to do while we wait? Naruto asked. Hinata pulled out a deck of cards. Better than nothing. 10 minutes later Anko's team and Kurenai's team were heading towards the eastern gate of Odo. All of them were wearing their Hitai Atesh, since they were now allowed to show off which village they were loyal to. They were quickly arranged so Kurenai's team were in front of the clients while Anko's were in back, because as the more experienced unit Kurenai's team could act quicker. Couldn't we in a wagon or something? Tsunami asked, not really liking the idea of walking all the way back to Wave. In fact, the entire trip from Wave to Rice was done by wagon, so she naturally assumed the trip back would be no different. We could, but we don't want to draw attention to ourselves. If you get tired we can still provide you a lift though. Kurenai told her. How? Inari asked curiously. Either we can carry you, or one of my close friends can. Anko answered. But for now, let's start out with a nice walk and enjoy the weather. Why can't we start with a ride? Inari asked. Trust me kid, you don't want to start this trip the way she meant. Kurenai answered. Why can't we use the way we got here? Inari asked his mother. How exactly did you get here by the way? Isaribi asked. I mean, it's not like our village is on any map. It's a long story. Tsunami replied. It's going to be a long trip, so why not? Naruto added. Okay then. You see, our country's economy is doing really bad lately due to a corrupt businessman. Tsunami started. The daimyo of your country has been sympathetic to our trouble and secretly sending us money and supplies so we don't go completely broke. A little while ago, I noticed something disturbing, and asked the people who brought us imports from here if they could get in touch with someone who could do something about it. They offered to bring me and my son directly here so we could plead our case to you. Anko and Kurenai shared a look before returning their gaze to the young mother. Is that all? Yes. Why? Do you not believe me? Oh, it sounds believable, but it also sounds like you're omitting something. Kurenai answered. The fact that you asked, do you not believe me? So soon shows that too. Anko pointed out. Tsunami sighed and looked skyward for a moment, making everyone stop in their tracks, waiting to hear what she'd say next. There is something more. You see, the disturbing thing I noticed was what looked like a group of ninja in an area I didn't think they were supposed to be. And they probably noticed me too. That's why I asked the import bringers to take me and my son away from there for a while so we could be safe. I didn't want to risk them attacking us at home that night. All present ninja shared looks amongst themselves, primarily with their own teams but not limited to just that. Would you happen to have seen any identifying symbols on these ninja? Anko asked. Tsunami nodded and pulled out a piece of paper. I drew one down. Anko looked at it and scowled. Definitely Konoha's mark. I was afraid of that. You see, not too long before that, my father went to Land of Fire to get some help for the bridge project he's working on. He also said he would try and get some ninja cheaply if he could. Tsunami continued sadly. Only help he'd get is from Konoha, who apparently have some shady business there already. Kurenai commented. Yeah, I thought of that but didn't know what else to do. And I think he might bring them to our home as well. I'm worried that may only make the situation worse. Anko sighed. Alright, change of plans. We need to get to Wave as quickly as possible, preferably within the next day or so. That's impossible, Fu stated. Not really. We have one way that could work. Anko told everyone, then pointed to Naruto. Me. How can I get everyone across 2 countries and a sea in a day or so? He asked. Simple. Use your gravity control to make us all fly that way as fast as you can. Anko told him with a confident smile. That sounds like a great idea. Fu said with a pleased grin. Naruto had once taken his friends for a flight with that Kekkei Genkai and she was probably the one who most enjoyed it. The fact that her Biju had wings might be a factor in that though. Flying. How can you do that? Inari asked, sounding and looking for the first time something rather than irritated. Right now he was more intrigued than anything else. It's one of my many skills. And it could work, but the problem is I can only use it for so long. Naruto answered carefully. Among all of Naruto's Kekkei Genkais, all shared a common weakness. He could only use each one for at most 9 consecutive minutes, and once that time was up it automatically shut off, needing 9 consecutive seconds before he could reactivate it or switch to a different one. And the 9-second wait was mandatory even if he voluntarily deactivated the bloodline he was using. Most likely his children wouldn't have either of those problems according to the Kyuubi. There were more weakness to his abilities, but they varied amongst the individual Kekkei Genkais and were only present when he was using them. So go as far as you can in the time you can, take a break, and then start up again. Fu told him. But make sure we're back on the ground before you stop. Sasama added. Is there really no better alternative? Isaribi asked, for she was afraid of heights. Sadly no. We need to hurry and this is for the best. Anko told her student. Fine. But if I have to do this, then at least let me ride on Naruto-kun's back so I'll feel safer. Isaribi demanded. Yeah, I'm sure that's the only reason. Several present girls thought sarcastically. Naruto turned to show his back. Hop on Isaribi-chan. She wrapped her arms around him and he wrapped his own to hold her in place. Everyone ready? You might want to hold onto your own son for this, ma'am. Kurenai warned Tsunami, who quickly held him to her maternally. You don't get vertigo or motion sickness, do you? Tsunami shook her head negatively. Okay, we should be clear. Gotcha. Naruto replied, then activated his Kekkei Genkai. Everyone around him suddenly became weightless and then he made them start to hover. He started out slowly to give the clients a chance to handle the new experience. Fortunately they weren't freaking out, but did look unnerved. Hoping to get the shock over with for them, he got everyone above the trees and made them go forward about as fast as falcons could fly. Tsunami's main thoughts on this were, is there anything ninja can't do? While Inari's was, I'm actually flying. This is awesome. Everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves but Isaribi, who kept her face buried in Naruto's hair and her arms and legs tight as clamps around her ride's body. Naruto meanwhile couldn't help but notice the fact that her chest was pressing nicely into his back, but wasn't sure if that was intentional or not. The trip went well but not quickly, with Naruto not reaching maximum speed for the sake of the civilians. He did eventually go higher to avoid the risk of being seen, and everyone kept an eye on the time limit, lest they plummet to the ground. Tsunami was initially frightened for the first 2 times but by the 3rd time she got more relaxed and was actually able to enjoy it a bit. Not quite as much as Fu, who kept asking for Naruto to let them do some barrel rolls and loops for fun but kept getting turned down. 3 hours later they had reached the shore of Land of Fire and the small stretch of sea that separated them from Wave Country. Can I take a break? I'm a bit tired. Naruto complained. No problem. We can take it from here, Otudo. Anko answered. The next moment a couple of giant snakes were summoned, frightening Tsunami and Inari quite a bit. It's alright, these guys won't bite. Besides, they're constrictors, so they're not poisonous even if they did. That's not funny, sensei, Hinata told Anko as she and several others climbed onto one of the snake's back. You actually get along with snakes? Tsunami asked fearfully. You bet. In fact, one of my best friends growing up was a snake. Anko answered, then summoned her personal summons Kogyoku along with Naruto's old snake Sango. Once the two kids under Orochimaru's care became old enough to defend themselves, Manda ordered the two snakes to be returned, but allowed them to be personal summons for Anko once she signed the snake contract. Why don't you say hi? Hello. Tsunami said meekly. Hey Sango, long time no see. Naruto said with much enthusiasm to the orange and black snake, which slithered over to him so he could pet her. Things still going well for you, kid? Sango asked. It talked? Inari asked in surprise. All the summoned snakes turned to face the boy, without menace, but it still scared him. Did you think we summoned plain ordinary snakes, kid? Anko asked. Come on, let's get going. Kurenai told everyone. Tsunami and Inari got settling on one of the big snakes, and they started swimming to the island country. Wow, that's one big bridge. Naruto whispered as the sight of a large unfinished bridge came into view from the fog surrounding the area at the time. Bet it will look better when it's done. Hinata whispered while she held onto him from behind. Isaribi meanwhile was looking into the water from her position on the front of the snake they were riding. Wish I could go for a quick swim. Guess I can wait a bit longer. Naruto, Hinata, and Isaribi were riding one snake while Haku, Fu, and Sasama were riding another, both teams creating a defense around the snake that was carrying Anko, Kurenai, Tsunami, and Inari. So far there were no problems other than a lot of mist, which had Hinata activate her Byakugan to keep an eye out. Luckily no one who didn't already know of her Kekkei Genkai could see her use it. Wish I could talk to Naruto about this opportunity, but with Isaribi-chan so close I don't think I should. Hinata quickly commented in her head. The opportunity she had in mind was telling the other girls about Naruto's need for multiple women since they were all in the same place together. A better chance would probably never come along. Ah, what the hell, if she hears us talking she might actually support the idea. And it might get her what she wants too. Hey, Naru-kun, she whispered into his ear to catch his attention. Yes, Hina-chan, he replied somewhat above a whisper. While we're here on this mission, do you think we ought to tell everyone about your situation? Hinata asked. Naruto gave the aforementioned team a quick glance before answering. It might be a good idea. But should we do it before or after the mission is over? What situation, Naruto-kun? Isaribi asked, pretty sure she knew which one but choosing to play innocent. Something the Sannin told me about that's kind of difficult to just come out and say. Naruto nervously answered. Is there anything I can do to help you with it? Isaribi asked, trying her hardest to pretend to be unaware. Her blush wasn't helping. That depends. You might not like it once you hear it. And if I'm okay with it? Naruto wasn't expecting that response, so he thought over it and sighed. Then I would love to have you help me out. Isaribi turned so he couldn't see her blush or perverted grin. Bingo. That's all the invitation I need. Once they reached land and continued to Tsunami and Inari's hometown, the area felt unhostile, so they didn't move in a hurry. However, they did avoid any main roads and stuck to moving within the forest and tree tops. Years of being told to be as secretive and discreet as possible when on missions created such behavior in Oto Ninja. At the moment they were on the ground for the sake of their clients. The summoned snakes quickly left the area since they didn't feel needed anymore. After about 20 minutes of moving, Anko and Kurenai came to a stop, making the rest of their group stop as well. Listen, you guys hear that? All ears strained to catch any unusual noise. At first all they could hear were normal forest sounds, but a subtle note of metal hitting metal could be heard to a few of the genin. Sounds like a fight's going on. Sasama stated. Hinata, check it out. Anko ordered. Said girl nodded and activated her Byakugan. What she saw made her gasp. There's a fight east-northeast of us, and it looks like Momochi-sama is in it. Otu-san? Haku asked, having no idea her adoptive father, whom she respected 100-fold more than her biological one, was anywhere near here. What's he doing here? No idea. Who's he fighting? Kurenai asked. I see him fighting one man with white hair directly, and there are 3 kids our age standing by another older man. One of the 3 kids just threw a large collapsible shuriken, but it missed Momochi-sama. All are wearing Konoha Hitai Atesh. Hinata told everyone. Damn it. Anko said under her breath. What's the older man look like? Tsunami asked as she pulled out a photo in one of her pockets. Is this him? With her Byakugan, Hinata barely needed a second to find out. Yes, that's him. He's your father, I'm assuming. Yes. He's not in danger, is he? Hinata shook her head. He's guarded well, but that's only because the 3 ninja around him are just genin at best. They know they have no chance against someone like Zabuza Momochi-sama. Why's he fighting them? Fu asked. There's only one way to find out. We gotta get him out of the fight and come to us, but without the Konoha shinobi finding out we're here. Kurenai analyzed. Won't that be interfering with his own mission? Naruto asked. I highly doubt Otokage-sama would assign us to transport these people home safely while assigning another person to kill one of their relatives. Anko told her student. What would be the point? It would increase the risk of the client seeing the death and we'd get bad publicity and risk losing future business. And besides, what threat to anyone can the old man pose? He poses a threat to Gato, that's for sure. Tsunami replied, making Inari nod. Haku took a step forward. Sensei, let me be the one to handle Otu-san. He'll be more understanding and forgiving if I'm the one who does it. Plus, I've got the necessary tools to do it without revealing our presence. Kurenai thought it over for a second, and nodded. Go right ahead, Haku. Haku reached into her pack and pulled out a mask resembling that of a Kiri hunter ninja. One of the best strategies employed by Oto Nin on the job in the past had been pretending to be allied to other villages while doing dirty work, thus lowering the reputation of rival villages while keeping their own unknown. Sometimes they pretended to be one of their allies to raise their reputation too. Haku generally played the role of a Kiri shinobi as a way of getting back at her birth village for what they tried to do to her. With her disguise in place, Haku went into the trees to act out her role. Hinata kept watching in case something happened to go wrong. Not that she expected it to. After all, Haku did have field experience, so she knew what she was doing. Haku perched on a branch and concealed her chakra as best she could. Nobody in her line of sight suspected a thing. She noticed that only one of the Konoha ninja was actually giving Zabuza any trouble, and that one was a white-haired man with most of his face covered. Haku arched an eyebrow when she saw him like that. The mask I can understand, but doesn't having one of his eyes covered affect his depth perception and range of vision? Since he's dripping wet, I guess that means he was caught in a water prison but somehow got out recently. And since he's the oldest, I'm going to assume he's a Junin sensei and those are his genin students. Waiting for the right moment, she decided to analyze the genin present as well. Wow, that pink-haired girl really stands out, even more than Naruto-kun's outfit does. And the way she's standing and watching tells me she's not really prepared for being in real shinobi situations. Probably a civilian descendant. The 2 boys look less shocked, so they probably come from clans. The one in blue looks like he's itching to get in the fight, but the other one seems to know to keep his distance. They all look like this as their first time out of the village and weren't expecting much to encounter. Zabuza and the Konoha Junin both did water dragon attacks at the same time, and both looked out of breath. Now's my chance. Haku then pulled out her Senbon needles and threw them with great accuracy at a few pressure points on her adoptive father's neck. They hit their mark and he fell down. Before the Konoha Junin could get a good look, she jumped to land behind Zabuza. Thanks for weakening him for me. I'll take it from here. She then grabbed him, and shushined the two away back towards her group before anyone could ask any questions. If that Junin was competent in any way, he'd figure out she wasn't a real hunter nin and she wanted to be out of there before her bluff was called. Once she got back to her allies, Haku removed the Senbon as gently as she could. Zabuza still groaned in pain. Sorry about that, but we figured you needed to get out of there. Zabuza immediately recognized her voice. What are you doing here? That's actually what we want to ask you. Enko stated, standing over the swordsman. Zabuza coughed before answering. Otokage-sama told me to come here a few days ago. Wanted me to keep an eye out for Konoha nin around the main town. Enko didn't look all that surprised. So you sent someone in ahead of us, G-san. Is it because you were worried about us, or do you suspect more than you told me? Knowing him, I suspect the latter. How'd you get here before us? Sasama asked. Zabuza weakly laughed, then ached. I'm a Junin for a reason, kid. Kurenai knelt down to face him better. What can you tell us about those you were just fighting against? Not much. Other than the one competent one was apparently Konoha's copy nin Kakashi Hatake. Enko looked disturbed and then knelt down as well. Seriously? You're sure it was him? Yeah. He had a single Sharingan and mimicked all my moves trying to psych me out. Enko growled and balled up her fist. Then, surprising and frightening everyone else, she stopped and smiled. At least I finally get to kick his. You know the guy Nei-chan? Naruto asked. Enko nodded. Not in a good way, Otuto. Let's just say back in Konoha he was one of those that called for your death and he once threw a kunai at me for defending you when I was 6. She then gingerly touched her shoulder where she still had the scar from that event. Tsunami stepped forward. Sorry to say this, but if they're with my father then that guarantees you'll be running into them at my house shortly. Try not to fight too much. We don't want to lose our home to more violent jerks. Inari practically commanded. We'll take it outside if it comes to that, kid. Enko told them, then faced everyone all together. Alright everyone, let's try to get to their home before the old man and his guards do. Naruto, think you can fly us one more time? Sorry sensei, but I'd rather conserve my strength for now. Besides, we need Tsunami-san to lead us. He answered. Okay then, so let's get moving. Bring Zabuza-san with us too so he can be treated. What will my grandpa and those ninjas say if they see you bring him to our house? Inari asked. We'll treat him elsewhere, and it would be best if neither of you said a word about this. Don't want any unnecessary violence on your property, do you? Kurenai asked as she hoisted Zabuza onto Enko's back to be carried. Will you be staying at our house until this mission for you is over? Tsunami asked. Under the circumstances, I personally think it would be best if we don't. What do you guys think? Enko replied before addressing all other shinobi. I gotta agree. Housing ninja from rival villages under one roof can only bring about disaster. Kurenai added. But why do we have to be the ones to stay outside? Sasama asked. 1. We got someone who needs to recuperate without interference, and 2. We need to check around the town to see any suspicious activity involving Leaf Nin, and we can't do that if a group of Leaf Nin are aware we're here and they can keep their eyes on us. Kurenai explained. Plus, it never hurts to have a little survival training and experience thrown in. Enko commented. Now let's get going, we've wasted enough time as it is. Everyone then rushed to their destination, even the clients. About an hour later, Tazuna unlocked the door to his house and went inside, along with his ninja bodyguards. Hello, anyone here? He called out since it sounded quieter than he expected. Tsunami poked her head out from the kitchen. Welcome back, Otu-san. Glad to see you're not hurt. How was the trip? No one suspected a thing. Well, since we can't crash at an actual house, can we got to a hotel or something? Fu asked the instructors while they walked into the woods around their client's property. I suppose we can at least look around for one. Kurenai answered. Aren't you used to sleeping outside on missions? Enko asked. Doesn't mean I'll turn down the chance to sleep indoors. The green-haired Jinchuriki replied, remembering several times back in Taki she had been forced to sleep outdoors. And besides, we've already established that there are enemy ninja in the area. Camping out will give them an opportunity to ambush us if they discover us, but staying in a hotel will thwart them lest they not care about keeping an image in the area. She's got a point, Kurenai whispered to Anko. And it would help Zabuza-san recover if he were indoors. Alright then. I'm all for a comfortable in-room too. Let's go find one. The purple-haired Junin told her team, then faced Naruto specifically. By the way Otudo, since Konoha is in the area now, and especially considering who's in their group, we're going to have to go with our aliases for the rest of the mission. Naruto nodded, and while the rest of his team understood, Kurenai's didn't. Aliases? Sasama asked. Yeah, it's a defense for the two of us in case we ever encountered any Konoha shinobi. Anko answered. Officially, we've been dead to them for 10 years, but there's still a chance we could run into someone who'd recognize us and figure out everything Otokage-sama set up back then was faked. This Kakashi jerk is a likely one to do that. So the two of us will use fake names to at least avoid outright exposing ourselves. So what's the new names we should know? Haku asked. We'll still go by Anko and Naruto, to make it easier on you guys and the clients. But our family name will be Arashi for the both of us. And Naruto, you'll have to hide your whisker marks. Dead giveaway. Hinata and Isaribi soon applied some makeup to Naruto's cheeks to hide his whiskers, and then everyone went to go find a hotel to check into, with Kurenai carrying the immobile Zabuza on her back. Once the group of Oto ninja went into the main town, they were pretty disturbed to see what kind of shape it was in. The heart of downtown could barely be described as better than a slum. Doors and windows of empty shops were boarded up and those that weren't out of business yet looked like nothing short of the grace of Kami was keeping them from it. And every one of the locals gave this group some distance and cautious looks. Under the circumstances it was entirely normal. Some locals gave the girls interested looks as well, and the fact that Naruto was the only mobile guy in the group made some feel bolder than others. One particular man, once a mediocre fisherman but a random pauper now, approached the group of shinobi. He saw the headbands but didn't recognize the music note symbol, so he figured they couldn't possibly be professional ninjas. Also he was a bit of a East, so that factored into his judgment here too. Hey ladies, wanna come to my place today? You must be new to town, so I'll let ya know there's few places to sleep peacefully nowadays here. Hinata and Isaribi took a step back to feel guarded by Naruto. Luckily the other kunoichi weren't strangers to these types of situations and knew how to handle it. Anko crossed her arms and smirked. Thanks for the kind offer, but we're not staying for the night. Ah come on gal, it'll be worth your while. The pauper added, wiggling his eyebrows for effect. Anko acted like she was flattered. In that case, can I put a little perfume on now? Sure. Knock yourself out. Anko then pulled out a small canister. Actually, I think I'll knock you out instead. She then sprayed some pepper spray, ninja strength, at the harasser. The effect was like a bee sting right on the eye. The man screamed, clutched his eyes, and fell on the ground. Anko and the rest of the experienced kunoichi just walked past. Naruto, Hinata, and Isaribi were momentarily surprised by what they had just witnessed, but snapped out of it and caught up with the rest quickly. Nice job sensei, Hinata whispered. Anko grinned wickedly. Remember, a kunoichi's greatest weapon is catching a man off guard and playing on his lusts. Do that, and a direct fight is unneeded. Maybe I can use that to have some time with Naruto-kun. Isaribi quickly and deviously thought just then. Please tell me that's not where we'll stay. Sasama pleaded as a run-down hotel came into view. Let's just say in the condition it was in, the only guests you could expect here were vermin. I'm guessing that with the country as bad as it is, tourists don't bother coming by anymore. Kurenai stated. Although both she and Anko had already figured that out. They just wanted their students to see it and the extent of the damage to the town for themselves. It would provide a good motivator for them later on. So it's this bad, even with Daimyo-sama providing financial aid? Hinata asked. Anko nodded. Obviously. But remember, we don't know how much money he's giving, and either way he has to do it in secret, or else Gato would just be more brutal in an effort to collect it quicker. Which is why we have to eliminate him. Naruto commented. Anko nodded. Right, but let's continue this discussion elsewhere. She quickly led everyone into a forested area and summoned several snakes to act as sort of watchdogs. And then she also activated a soundproof dome barrier to ensure no one overheard them. We can't risk what I'm about to explain being overheard by anyone. Remember, there's a chance some of the villagers here may act as eyes and ears to Gato in exchange for better treatment from him. Ninja are not the only ones we should be cautious of here. The students didn't think of that, but after hearing it, it made a lot of sense. Even if tyrants were hated, some of their victims would sell out others to better their own situations and gain approval from the tyrant. It happened a lot in history. Kurenai set down Zabuza, who remained conscious enough to hear everything, as Anko explained what she was thinking. This Gato guy is a business tycoon, not a warrior. And since he's at the top of the business, that means he's much more likely to have others do his work for him, rarely getting directly involved unless he's overcome with curiosity or thinks the job's not getting done well enough. Because of this, eliminating him isn't as easy as it sounds. Because to eliminate him, we have to be in the same place he is at some time. Sasama thought out loud. Anko nodded. Exactly. Somehow, we need to draw him out, or discover his whereabouts. Sadly, the first option is the easier. If we did happen to capture one of his cronies and get him to crack, Gato most likely has a bunch of lowlife thugs under his thumb, and I'm betting he has plenty of ways to get rid of them should they double-cross him. It's likely he'd be prepared for a ninja assault. Getting him to come to us puts the odds in our favor. And how do we do that? Naruto asked. Anko shrugged. I'm not so sure right now. Kurenai-chan, you got any ideas? The genjutsu expert put her chin in her hand, showing she was thinking. If we were to make it look like the bridge is about to be completed, then Gato will likely come out of hiding to personally do something about it. Remember, he wants the people here too afraid to oppose him. So by coming here when the bridge is nearly complete with the intent to destroy it and kill some of those involved, he sends a frightful message to anyone left. The Mizukage did something similar once. Only it involved someone speaking for the rights of Kekkei Genkai wielders. Zabuza added in. Okay. Since Gato should most fear the completion of the bridge, if it begins to look like a reality, he'll send hired goons to kill the construction crew, the initial planner, and demolish the structure too. If we prevent that, and even use some tricks to make it appear the bridge is getting done sooner, then he should get desperate and reveal himself. And then we kill him. Anko summarized with a smile. What about a deadman switch? Zabuza asked. None of the genin understood that, but Anko and Kurenai caught on. Oh crap, didn't think of that. Good thinking, Zabuza-san. What did he mean by that? Naruto asked. Deadman switch is the term used to mean a vengeful failsafe movement. The name comes from the idea of a weapon that works when the wielder is dead. Think of a paper bomb trap that you keep wrapped around yourself, but instead of activating when you put chakra into it, it activates when you stop. Therefore, if you were to die or run out of chakra, then it explodes, destroying you and hopefully your enemies as well. Same basic principle. Anko explained. Some strategies are similar. Kurenai added. The Altos know what to do in the event the Otokage is killed and how to find the killer. They're trained for that beforehand. And if a team fails to return home, that tells the Kage of the village to send a second group to see what happened and finish the job. Gato may have some of his men prepared to do something if he were to simply vanish. Only after the bridge is complete can these people truly be safe from him. But he's not a ninja. Would he use such a tactic? Hinata asked. We should be prepared for it anyway. Kurenai answered. There is a chance we're overthinking what the enemy may have planned, but overthinking is more likely to succeed than underthinking. Naruto nodded. Okay, So we have a plan regarding our target. How does Konoha's involvement play into this? Preferably we don't interact with them at all. However, if they're here on behalf on the head of the bridge project like Tazuna told us, then that will complicate things. Anko stated with a sigh. It's likely that interacting with them will be inevitable, and to avoid any unnecessary conflict, we can't interfere with their mission or fight them unprovoked. To the genin it sounded obvious enough, but there was something they didn't quite grasp. If there was a fight and Konoha could effectively place the blame on Odo, then they might be able to declare war on the village. They might not, as Odo was hidden from them and too small to be too much of a threat, but if by chance Konoha did try, then it would cause trouble. Also, Konoha would seek out their allies to help find Odo, which would ultimately reveal Tsuna's and Taki's real alliances, which could end up sparking the Fourth Great Ninja War. So in the long run, as long as they didn't make any malicious moves towards the Konoha shinobi, they could remain living the way they liked. But in the event these Konoha nin made the first move, then the Odo shinobi could retaliate justifiably. Although even then Konoha might try and do something back. And what do we do if they won't do the same? Isaribi asked, already sure of the answer but wanting confirmation. The same thing we do to any enemy, fight back. Anko answered. Okay. Now that that's covered, let's set up a base camp. Kurenai told everyone. We should go deeper into the woods to make it less likely to get company. Also with Zabuza-san here incapacitated, someone will have to remain with him at all times until he recovers, so somewhere where our enemies would be unlikely to go to is obviously preferable. It didn't take them long to find a good enough spot. Open enough that they could set up tents, but discreet enough that only someone trying to get there would. There was no fresh water in the immediate area, but it could be gotten with a 20-minute walk north. That night everyone went to sleep in their tents, with Naruto and Zabuza sharing while two people took guard shifts for 3 hours throughout the night. It was rather uneventful, which was a good thing for now. The next day proved to be difficult to schedule for the Odo nin. Someone had to stay and watch over Zabuza at all times until he recovered. According to Haku, it should only take about a week at most, but until then his mobility was limited to about as good as someone twice his age. And not only that, someone had to check around town for the suspicious ninja activity reported to them by Tsunami. The genin team from Konoha led by Kakashi was ruled out for consideration since Tsunami didn't recognize a single one of them. So they had to check for other ninja in the area, which was often about as easy as looking for a needle in a haystack. For the time being they split into two initial groups. The first group consisted of just Naruto, Haku, and Kurenai keeping guard over Zabuza and their campsite. The rest formed the group that would check the town out for anything unusual, and they would have to split into smaller groups to cover more ground. At the moment Haku was standing looking for herbs and Kurenai was standing watch, leaving Naruto to go forage for food and water. Rather than waste his time scouting the area, he activated his Neo-Byakugan and looked over the entire area at once. He found some apple trees with their fruit in good condition and some rabbits by the creek they already knew the location of, but one thing in particular caught his attention the most. He saw one grown man with crutches talking to 3 kids his own age about 43 meters to the northwest. That must be the Konoha genin team that came here with Tsunami-san's father. Wonder what they're doing, Naruto thought, focusing his attention on them now. He saw the Junin start to walk up a tree slowly and his students look on in awe. The Junin came to a stop and said something to them before tossing them each a kunai. Naruto could only shake his head at this. Are you kidding me? These genin are taking missions outside the village and they're just now learning to walk up trees. And why are they so surprised to see such a thing? Haven't they ever actually noticed what the ninja in their own villages do? Naruto decided to ignore it for now and went back to getting supplies. In no time at all he had water, fruit, and meat for his comrades and brought them back to their campsite. Got it, Kurenai-sensei. Thanks, Naruto. By the way, I noticed something rather peculiar involving the known Konoha ninja here. Naruto added. Kurenai arched an eyebrow. Go on. It appears they are almost no threat. The genin are just now learning to tree walk and look like they never knew such a thing was possible. As for the Junin, he's mobile but as slow as a tortoise. Kurenai thought this over. That does sound rather pathetic, but then again the Hokage did select them for this mission. We gotta assume they have some skills we don't know about. She then cleared her throat. Naruto, I want you to go back and get a closer, longer look. See what you can about them all. We need to see what it is about them that made them the ninja chosen to be here. Naruto nodded. Okay, I'll do what I can. He then disappeared back into the forest. Naruto had no trouble finding them when he reactivated his Neo-Byakugan. His eyes showed him that the Kunoichi Genin was making the most progress so far. Naruto settled on a branch not within seeing or hearing range, and stayed downwind since the team had a dog with them. For a while nothing happened that really struck him as interesting. So he decided to take a close look at the ninja to see if he should be wary for anything. The first one he studied was the Junin, since Anko seemed to recognize him. If she was right, then this man was the infamous copycat Kakashi Hatake, once a student of the Yondaime Hokage. And he was one of the first people to call for his death back in Konoha. Naruto frowned, thinking his father would probably knock his student senseless if he was still around for that. Yes, Naruto knew who his birth parents were. The Sannin saw no reason to hide that info from him since no one in Odo wanted him dead and Iwa was confirmed as no threat. In fact, only Konoha could pose a threat to him if that info got out, so it was kept under wraps and he still used his mother's name. One could only imagine the commotion Konoha would cause if they heard so much as a rumor that there was someone using the name Namikaze, and worse, for another village. Naruto kept most of his attention on Kakashi at first, trying to size the man up completely so he'd have some understanding of what he may someday be up against. Kakashi's most notable feature was that his left eye was covered up. According to Orochimaru, that eye was actually a Sharingan, currently the only working one in Konoha. He had used it to copy over 1,000 techniques, each of which he knew how to use effectively. Although no one in Odo knew exactly how he got it. He may be dangerous once he heals. But Nei-chan's more likely to deal with him than me if the situation does come up. I'd more likely have to handle his students. Let's see what they got up their sleeves. The first one of the students Naruto observed was the one that stood out the most. The girl with the pink hair and large forehead, currently sitting on a branch watching her teammates continue to struggle. Her gaze focused almost solely on one teammate in particular, indicating a personal preference. Naruto's Neo-Byakugan showed him her chakra coils were small and her muscles only at academy build, and there was little fat anywhere in her body, including her S. Judging from her physiology, Naruto suspected this girl had no training or tutoring outside academy classes, meaning she was lazy in training or not of a ninja family. Maybe even both. The way she watched her teammate and looked at him while doing so probably meant she was infatuated with him. Naruto then checked out the next one to catch his attention, which happened to be the guy closest to the pink-haired girl at the moment. This was a guy who wore a jacket and carried a dog in it with him. The Neo-Byakugan showed he had 2 streaks on his face and small fangs in his mouth, classic markings of the Inuzuka clan. His physiology showed he was serious about his training and did it regularly, resulting in strong muscles and healthy chakra coils. And his dog was in good shape too. Naruto knew this guy could prove to be a handful if he ever faced him. And finally, he looked over at the last one present, the one on the other side of the girl. It was a guy with hair shaped like a duck's who wore a blue shirt with almost white tan shorts. His shirt had a red and white fan symbol on the back of it, probably a clan symbol but not one Naruto knew off the top of his head. He was also the one the girl was intently observing, although his own expression showed he was focused solely on what he was doing. His chakra coils were the most well-formed out of the 3 but his muscles were probably second compared to the Inuzuka boy. Meaning this guy was the better at ninjutsu but the Inuzuka was physically stronger. Before Naruto could continue watching, he saw with his Dujutsu Kakashi sensing his presence finally and prepare a fire jutsu to get rid of him. Since he was weakened, it was easy for Naruto to get away from the damage in time. Naruto deactivated his bloodline, running out of time for it anyway and anticipating a possible search for him by them. It turned out he was right, for the three genin showed up looking for him. They didn't see him, since he was up in a tree, and they were on the ground looking for him on the ground. The Inuzuka's dog tried sniffing for their target, but everyone else was just using their eyes to search for him. Naruto almost laughed at them, but held it in so he could surprise them. Their teacher hadn't followed, since he needed crutches to stand up. Naruto decided to have some fun and catch them off guard. Wondering how to best do it, he got a wicked idea he just couldn't resist. After all, it worked so well on Jiraiya, so it should work even better on these guys. Hiding himself deeper into the foliage, he made a single hand sign and whispered the jutsu's name. The next thing the three genin knew, they were surrounded by a group of barely dressed, or maybe not dressed at all, identical blonde girls with killer figures, all running out from behind the trees happily to greet them. The girl was mortified, the duck-ass guy was shocked, and the Inuzuka looked like all his prayers had been answered. Naruto wasn't sure which knocked the Inuzuka out first, the massive nosebleed of the hit on the head he got from the angry at his reaction Pinkett. The girl then glared at all the girls who were hanging onto the duck-ass guy, who for some reason now shrugged the whole thing off, before she tried to wail on them all. She didn't get the chance to, as all the clones vanished in a puff of smoke, clouding their vision long enough for Naruto to get away unnoticed. Meanwhile, Sasama and Isaribi were checking out the south end of the town. Hinata and Anko were checking out the north end while Fu was checking out the east end. An intercom link was being used between them all, with an emergency link to Kurenai should something big come up. While they were searching for anything out of the ordinary, the two had a little girl talk as well. And there was one topic in particular that was sure to keep both their interests. So I bet having Naruto-kun as a teammate is a lot of fun. Sasama started to break the ice. Isaribi nodded with a small smile. Yeah, but Hinata takes a lot of his attention. I bet that's frustrating, but if he's happy then I guess that's for the best. Sasama said with a sigh. She had gotten to know Naruto as a common sparring partner so both could learn a variety of techniques and counter-techniques, mostly regarding weaponry, and she had grown fond of the blonde in that time. Isaribi looked around them to make sure no one was nearby, both because of her job and for the sake of privacy. Hey, you remember that little bit of info regarding him and other girls? Sasama nodded. Well, I'm going for it. If I get the chance, that is. Really? Sasama asked. Is anyone else? I haven't heard. Why? You interested too? Gotta admit the idea has crossed my mind, and I'm not against it. I think Haku and Fu are eager too though. I'm not surprised. Hey, maybe the four of us should have our way with him while we're here. Isaribi joked. The orange-haired girl arched an eyebrow. Tempting, but wouldn't Hinata break our necks for getting to him first? I never said we had to go all the way, just have some fun with him. Sasama giggled. Wonder how far we can go before we break him. Isaribi giggled too at the thought. Before the two kunoichi could continue their chat, they thought they saw someone glance their way and disappear, as if spying on them. Immediately suspicious, the two decided to see what was going on. To avoid being noticed by their potential spy, the two went to the rooftops, only to see someone else already on them trying to get away quickly. Obviously someone was trying to watch us, got spotted, and is trying to get away. Sasama stated as she and Isaribi tried to follow. Any-eyed who they are. Nope, and it doesn't matter. We should assume they're a threat for now. The unidentified target never turned around to see how close they were or stopped in his journey to wherever he was going. He quickly left the town and got to the shore, where he dived under the water and just disappeared, with no bubbles floating to the surface. Sasama was downright confused, but Isaribi was curious. I'll handle it from here. You stay to make sure no one else shows up. Sasama nodded, and Isaribi dived into the water. It was darker than she was used to, but luckily she had plenty of experience navigating underwater. Diving deeper, she looked for any signs of a person, while noting with pleasure the undersea environment. Isaribi didn't see any actual people, but she did notice something that shouldn't have been there. A door. And not a piece of debris thrown out to sea. This door was attached to the ground and had some small red lights outlining it, probably to make it more visible to whoever needed to access it. Either these guys are idiots, or they don't expect anyone else to go swimming here this deep. The purple-haired girl thought quickly. I wonder how you open it. I don't see any keyhole. Maybe they're smarter than I give them credit for. Rather than try to figure it out just then, Isaribi surfaced for another breath and then went back down. When she got back to the door, she saw it begin to open in a trapdoor-like fashion, creating some suction she got caught up in and couldn't fight. Before she knew it, she was pulled in, and landed in a room that drained the water out and gave her room to breath. Isaribi coughed a little and took a few breaths before she noticed where she was. A wall made of glass with a closed glass door separated her from another room with two men in black ninja outfits. On the wall she saw some monitors showing images of the sea, meaning they must have spotted her swimming around. Both men pulled out some katanas and walked towards her. Oh crap! Was all she could mutter. Isaribi got on her feet and pulled out two kunai, one for each hand, and took a defensive stance against her captors. They didn't look intimidated once they got into the light and she could see their faces. They didn't look worried, or bothered, or even happy at the prospect of a kill. They didn't look anything, like their faces were frozen in an apathetic stare. She didn't like it, it felt so inhuman. With their swords out, one of the men opened the door into their room, but not to let her enter. Rather it was so they could get to her and cut her to pieces. She briefly wondered if they expected her to just stand there and let it happen. Either way, she wasn't going to. Since the out opened out, from Isaribi's position, it was easier for her to ambush them than for them to ambush her. So she jolted out the door and used a kunai to cut the chest of one guy, but the door blocked her attack on the other guy. Isaribi quickly put some distance between herself and her captives and took another look to see anything she should be wary of. The first thing she noticed was that the guy she had wounded acted like it didn't hurt. He definitely acknowledged the wound by touching it and wiping off his blood, but his expression was unpained and unchanged. Almost as if he didn't recognize pain. The next thing she noticed was that neither of them wore any symbols telling where their allegiance laid. These must be the suspicious ninja we were warned about. I should focus more on getting out of here than fighting them. Isaribi thought, looking for a way out without taking her eyes off them. Odds are likely I can't get out the same way I got it, and it's highly unlikely that an underwater base wouldn't have an emergency exit of some sort. Isaribi started backing away without making it look obvious. Unfortunately, her current adversaries saw that and advanced forward to restrain her. Isaribi ducked down and used her kunais to cut their calves. Since any water jutsu might flood the place, she was limited to solely taijutsu and weapon handling here, but that meant her enemies were too. The downside was they looked like they were junins or at least strong chunins. The odds weren't in her favor, so she had to get out of here. I guess I only really have one option. The purple-haired girl thought. During the brief time her opponents couldn't stand, she raced to the back of the room and opened the door. There were no locks on it because the only ones intended to be here wouldn't need to lock themselves out. There was a short hallway, if you could call it that, with two doors, each one opposite the other. With no time to think, she went inside the left one hoping it would lead out. It didn't. Instead, this was a white room like one would find in a hospital, complete with a respirator and heart monitor, and even a patient on a bed. Curious, Isaribi got a closer look and saw a sleeping woman, who was quite attractive if even a little unkempt. Her long hair was a rich red and her face looked gentle and peaceful, but that was probably because she was unconscious. There was an IV hooked to her right arm and the heart monitor showed a steady pulse. Her skin was a healthy shade, so Isaribi wondered why she was here and in such a condition. Before she could try to figure it out, the unidentified shinobi caught up to her and they didn't look too pleased with her. "Get away from our leader's prize," one coldly demanded. Isaribi approached the part of the room where the equipment wasn't and put a paper bomb on the wall. The bomb went off just before one of the unmarked ninja would have been able to stab Isaribi in the stomach. The blast of the explosion sent them both back flying, but Isaribi landed away from him. Warning sirens went off and cracks in the walls formed, letting seawater enter. It started slow, but would soon speed up. Isaribi got back on her feet. Water style. Water drill jutsu. The water rose into the form of a twirling drill and shot right into the stone wall with a lot of force, carving a hole to the outside. As expected,